So hello and welcome back to the end of the video. So with the current situation, I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat as me. They had plans that were messed up by the virus and for who knows how long. Everything at the moment is just so unpredictable, so it can be really hard to deal with. So I kind of just wanted to share some of the mindsets and things that I'm doing to try and get me back on my feet, just in case it helps some of you guys as well. And these things can work with so many other things too, not just ones due to the virus. And a lot of these things can just be used for like any other kind of struggles as well, not just setbacks and whatnot. Like they're just ways to help with things that will help with literally anything that's mentally hard. But I might be catering it a little bit more to setbacks just because that's what I've been using it for. So the first thing I want to cover is just that it's okay to take time to grieve. So what I mean by this is just to allow yourself the time to feel upset about it, but just make sure that you don't get too caught up in it because you can't change it and the situation already sucks enough, so you don't really want to make it worse for yourself. But I just feel like a lot of the time people kind of prolong getting over something just because they don't really allow themselves the time to just like feel and get all the emotions out. Like they kind of just like try to mask it or just like avoid having to think about it at all. But I feel like just like letting yourself sit in a state for a while kind of helps to relieve it a little bit. And I find that I always just get to a point where I just realize that there's no point just like sitting here feeling bad about myself, or I almost just get like tired of feeling sad about it. And it kind of just naturally brings me to the state of just thinking that just thinking about it won't do me any good, so like why not move on and try and work something out about it. I feel like it's kind of similar to the concept of stressing beforehand will only make you go through the same thing twice. But I feel like in this it's kind of like switched where like stressing about it comes second, where the thing actually like happens first. But I don't know, I just feel like thinking about it like this might help some people to understand just how to let go of something that's happened that's outside of your control. I don't know, I guess it's kind of just something to think about. So the next kind of strategy that I would like to add is just to find positives in a new outcome. I know it's nothing like revolutionary, but just like really take the time to think about it and like be creative with it. Like the things that you might find could be anything from like having more time to do something, which might result in the higher quality outcome than what you would have had in the first place. Or it might like take off some like unnecessary stress of like the timeline for the thing to happen in the first place. Or now you might have the chance to do something that you wouldn't have done at all in the first place. And I feel like if you haven't really practiced this much before, it might take a little bit of time to get used to, or sometimes it might be a bit hard because the negatives of the outcome might by far outweigh the positives. Like in my situation in this case, it kind of like set a ripple effect of like all these other things which it then created like more negative effect for. So in cases like that, you can just like spend more time on each positive. So building up those positives that you can find into something more worthy. Like instead of just create like a really long list, so like if you want to do like pros and cons, like you have like the cons which is like woo, and then like only a few positives. So instead of trying to like work on the number of things, try and really work on making those few things bigger to kind of like make up for the longer cons list. So like in this case, don't focus on like the length of the list, but rather the quality of each item on the list. One way of doing this might be to look for the positives within the positives, so the other effects that those now positives might have on other things as well. And by doing this, you might not only make yourself feel a little bit better about the setback, but you also have the chance to turn the setback into an opportunity. Or you could also kind of like work in reverse a bit. So if you can't get over like the list of the negative things that result from this outcome, like obviously it wouldn't necessarily apply to everything, but I feel like in some things you could find positives within the negatives, if that makes any sense. And then this in turn would also reduce the negatives on the list. Basically, at the end of the day, I more or less like to follow the idea that everything happens for a reason. Whether you believe in this from like the universe standpoint of like having everything planned out for you, or whether it's just literally the fact that no situation is purely bad or good, but you can always find the reason why it could have happened, if that makes any sense. And also just like thinking this way could make it a lot easier in terms of like the position that it puts you in. Instead of like coming from like a negative standpoint, trying to look at it in a positive way, it's kind of like already set in the positive and you're just kind of trying to work out why that was a better way to go. So I feel like trying to switch up perspectives and mindsets and like stuff in that way as well might also help to see any situation in more of a positive light. So the third thing that I would like to suggest is that if you find that it helps to just brain dump into a journal or wherever you so please. I personally am a little bit slack with this. I know I should do it more, but I've had like a lot of other people mention how much it has helped them. And I can see why, because it would kind of just like help to release or organize, or it might help you to work out what you're feeling if you're really not sure. Or if you keep up with it constantly enough, it could also help you to find patterns of the stress or things that bring you happiness that you could then work back through to like find that you could then later turn into goals. So like this might mean looking through to see what disappoints you the most about your habits, both in things that you do or don't do. So then you can like create goals to try and like get yourself to start or stop those habits. Or sometimes I feel like people focus too much on the negatives, and it can also like help to remind yourself of the positive things that you do. And when you're feeling not great, you can just like look through it and see what made you happy that other time and then do that, and then you might feel a bit better. But yeah, as I mentioned in the start of the video, similar things goes if it's not just a setback but just like any unfavorable situation. situation, or the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing. Because that is also another thing which I had experienced lately, not with any like setback or anything like that, but just like in a situation where it seemed as though I was in the less favorable position. But if you get it deeper, you can see that I gained more. Like even though I was like working harder for it or whatnot, there was so much more that came out of me working hard for it. Yeah, I don't know. I was tossing up like whether or not I should explain the situation that like I went through to do this as like as an example, but I think that's just gonna take too long. I feel like I just come across the wrong way, so I've got that out of the video, but hopefully it still kind of makes sense without the example. So as I noted earlier, I just kind of wanted to include a quick recap of the main points. I felt like I was talking kind of quick and maybe what I was saying wouldn't have stuck very well, or I don't know. So feel free to screenshot these, it's a bit of a reminder too. But yeah, so I think that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it or found these tips helpful. I gotta say, I know I really covered like 3 different points, but I still feel like, especially like even though the things that a lot of other people might suggest as well, to kind of like don't just look over it, like still like really think about it and like actually consider trying it. I guess like it might not seem that it would work until you actually give it a go. So as you can probably tell in the title as well, this video is part of like a 2-part series, I guess. Like I guess in this video it was kind of like going from like the bottom to middle, and then like the next video would be from like after you've like got to this level to like set your goals again. So I feel like it kind of makes sense to like group these together, because this is like, I guess a lot of the time the first step that people don't add. I feel like a lot of people try and like jump straight into like, resetting goals and stuff like that without really like tackling the problem in the first place, to just kind of like try to cover up without thinking about it too much. So but yeah, so I guess I'll just see you guys in the next video. Bye.